I'm James, and I'm showing you around my garden in Hexham today. A lot of what I've done with this garden has been to try and attract wildlife, but also make it as decorative as possible. But I'm not a neat freak type of gardener, and I like a scruffier look, and I don't really like weeding, to be honest. So you'll see things which some gardeners will think of as weeds, but I think of as something which often will attract wildlife or insects, and so a scruffy look. And when you look at the paving, you'll see all sorts of things growing out of the paving, and I occasionally take the odd thing out of it, but generally I like that sort of unkempt look. And you'll see as you go around the garden 3 or 4 different mowing regimes, and they're really to keep the lawns looking slightly managed by mowing around the edge, but then having wildflowers coming through, and then right at the top in the orchard section, that's managed so that I cut that once a year in late summer with my scythe, and then take the arisings away. So that's actually a sort of almost a purist type of meadow, although of course it's riddled unfortunately with ground elder, which has been one of my nightmares at the top end of the garden. But because I don't want to use any chemicals, I've tried various ways to weaken the ground elder, but the ground elder, I'm afraid, always wins. So one of the other things in the garden, this is a sloping garden, so it's got 4 levels really, and one of the things I've done to make it manageable is have one continuous level going up one side, so that I can run up and down with wheelbarrows and other things, and then there are little paths off onto each level. And the garden is enclosed by largely beech hedges, which are cut once a year, and you can probably hear a lot of the bird song, but they are absolutely riddled with sparrows and other small brown birds. So there's a lot of bird life in the garden, a lot of it living in the hedges. You're looking at the extension we put on the house back in 2013, and I particularly wanted a green roof for both wildlife and also to reduce the amount of runoff from the house. So that's it started off as a 50% sedum and a 50% wildflower mix on the roof, and that's changed over time, and it's now probably about 50% sedum and 40% chives. Chives have become the dominant wildflower, and they're in flower at the moment. Bees love them, so I'm very happy to just leave the chives as being the dominant. I go up once a year in November with the mower, and I mow it and take the arisings away, because with a green roof you've got to make sure that the substrate doesn't become fertile, so it stays as infertile as you can manage. So that's the green roof, and if you pan round, we've got solar panels on the house, but because of the roof configuration we could only get 6 panels on the house facing south. So we built a summer house come studio, which has another 6 solar panels on. So our garden is also part of our energy project. So we're now on the 3rd level of 4, and this is the flattest part of the garden, and here we've got more grass that's just mown around the edge, and I'll mow the central area probably maybe twice this year, and take the arisings away. But this is a raised bed for strawberries, and I'm just about to top up the growing medium with some of the compost that I make. So this is 3-year compost, as it were, and I just put that round, and I don't do any digging, or I try not to do any digging in my raised beds, and go for a no dig approach. So I'll be putting this round all the plants, and that will help retain the moisture and make it relatively weed free. And on the top I've just got a selection of flowering plants, and you can see everywhere in the garden foxgloves come up like weeds everywhere, and I encourage that. The other thing to see at this level is a water butt on the summer house come studio, so that's very useful for the next layer where I've got raised beds, and I've got a structure here with climbers, so wisteria and a rose, a honeysuckle and a jasmine. So in subsequent years there'll be a bit more of a barrier between the this layer and the final 4th layer. Okay, we're now on the 4th level, which is sort of much less managed, and it's really a sort of orchard working area. So we've got a 3-bin compost system here. So we've got the fresh compost here, which I turn over about 3 times a year, and water. And then the next level is the sort of compost, which is doing pretty well, so that'll need about another year. And also in here is compost from the kitchen waste, which first of all goes into a hot bin for 3 months, and then it comes into here in layers, and it speeds up the process. And then finally you end up with really nice, deep, dark, crumbly compost. So that's ready to go out now, and it's just covered up with old carpet, and you can see the construction of the bins is old pallets. It's scruffy, but it works. And also up here we've got a big bug hotel made out of old logs which are rotting down, and in the base of the hedge we've got old logs as well, which are a very good bug habitat. So this is the area with raised beds. It has a solid base because it was an area where there had been an old greenhouse, and one bed every year I try and improve it with a green manure crop. So this is a green manure crop here, and the other beds are largely no dig, and I'm putting my compost on. So I put about 50 millimeters of compost on in the spring, and then just plant straight into that, and I'm not digging the rest of it. And over here we've got a soft fruit bed with a frame, so I can net it when there's a good crop. But I replaced all my my soft fruit last year, so this is a project in progress.
For a non-gardener or someone who hasn't tried gardening before, why would you encourage them to start gardening?
I think one of the things gardening does for me, and it does for, there's lots of evidence now, is that having your hands into the natural environment is actually incredibly good for your mental health and your physical health. So although I'm not a gardener that spends a lot of time primping things and things. I get great joy in actually relaxing and looking at my garden and knowing that what I'm doing with my garden is actually helping to alleviate the biodiversity crisis that we're suffering at the moment. So, even in an urban garden, you can be doing as much for wildlife as lost the words.
Okay.
As somebody with a massive patch of countryside. So urban gardens are really, really important for biodiversity and wildlife now, especially in this time of crisis. And we've all got, we've got 220 species of native bee, and just by making a bug hotel, you're helping them survive.